The alien arena shook with laughter. Thousands of creatures from across the galaxy sat in tall stone seats, watching the center of the sandpit. Above them, banners waved in the wind, showing the face of Warlord Vesk, ruler of Zoltor. He stood proudly on the royal platform, surrounded by guards in red armor. A metal door opened with a loud bang. Two large guards pulled a weak human through the gate. His wrists and ankles were tied with thick chains. His face was bruised, his shirt torn, and blood covered his arms. He didn't fight back. He didn't look scared. The crowd laughed louder. "Look at the weak creature," shouted a green-skinned alien with sharp horns. "Is this what Earth calls a soldier?" another said, slapping his friend. Warlord Vesk stepped forward, his voice booming. This is the best they had left. This broken human. This is what Earth sends to fight Zoltor. The crowd cheered and whistled. The human looked up slowly. His eyes, dark and cold, stared straight at Vesk. But he said nothing. Vesk laughed again. "You are in chains, human. You are nothing now. Speak your name so I can add it to the list of the defeated." The human still didn't answer. One of the guards punched him in the stomach. The human fell to one knee, but didn't cry out. He wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand and finally looked around the arena. Then softly, he spoke one word. "Raven." The sound wasn't loud, but the moment he said it, everything changed. The laughter stopped. It was like someone turned off the sound in the whole arena. The crowd grew silent. Some of the older warriors looked at each other. Their smiles vanished. A few even stood up slowly, staring at the human with fear. Vesk narrowed his eyes. "What did you say?" The human stood straight again. "Raven." One of the warlord's advisors whispered in his ear. His face turned pale. "What is it?" Vesk growled. The advisor swallowed hard. "That name. It's not a name. It's a code. From the old wars. A ghost story." "What ghost?" The advisor shook his head. "Something humans used when they wanted to scare us. Something that was never supposed to be real." Suddenly, a soldier ran onto the platform, gasping for breath. "Commander, we lost all outside signals. No contact from orbit. All systems are jammed." Vesk's eyes widened. "Jammed? How?" "We don't know. All comms are silent. No one is answering." The human smiled, just a little. Then one of the guards near him screamed. Everyone turned. The guard fell to the ground, neck twisted at an impossible angle. But no one had touched him. The other guard backed away, eyes wide. He didn't move," the guard whispered. "He didn't do anything." The human stayed still. He didn't even blink. Vesk yelled, "Lock down the arena. Do not let that human out." The gates slammed shut. Weapons were drawn. Drones flew in from above to watch every move. But the human didn't run. He simply looked at the chains on his wrists. And then, link by link, the chains began to fall. No one touched them. No tools were used. The thick iron links, made to hold the strongest beasts in the galaxy, fell to the ground like they were nothing. Clink, clink, clink. The arena grew colder. The alien crowd, once full of pride and laughter, now sat in fear. "Who are you?" Vesk asked again, softer this time. The human looked at him. "I told you," he said. "I'm Raven." "And what do you want?" The human's voice was quiet, but every creature heard it. "To remind you, we never forget." He took one step forward. Every guard raised their weapons, but not one of them moved to stop him. The arena was silent. No one moved. No one blinked. The human, Raven, stood tall, free from his chains. The heavy metal links lay in the sand, untouched, like they had unlocked themselves. The guards aimed their weapons, but their hands shook. Warlord Vesk growled, "Why are you all frozen? He's just one man. Shoot him." Still, no one fired. The human turned his head slowly and looked up at the royal platform. His eyes met Vesk's. Calm, cold, controlled. Vesk slammed his fist against the railing. What is this, Raven? Why is everyone so afraid of a word? One of the oldest aliens in the arena stood up, an old historian from the outer rings. His voice cracked as he spoke. That name, it should have never been said. Vesk barked, "Speak clearly, old fool." The historian's hands trembled. Raven is not a name. It's a warning. A ghost from the Human Shadow Project. Something buried after the First Earth War. Lies. Vesk shouted. No, the historian said softly. Long ago, the galaxy tried to erase Earth's victory. They said humans lost. But we forgot that humans fight differently. Quietly. They leave something behind. Something that never stops hunting. The Raven was part of that. Everyone listened. The humans spoke again. They erased the records. But they couldn't erase us. Us. Vesk asked. You mean there are more? The human didn't answer. Then a loud crash echoed through the arena. A security drone fell from the sky, sparks flying from its body. The screens above went black. All feeds were gone. The crowd looked around nervously. Some began to rise from their seats, unsure if they should flee. Raven took another step forward. The guards near him backed away without thinking. One young alien soldier, barely out of training, whispered to his commander, "Should we stop him?" The commander stared at Raven's feet. "We can't. He hasn't even started." Another guard screamed. The camera bots turned to the body. Another soldier was dead. Neck snapped, bones crushed. But again, no one saw it happen. Raven still hadn't moved more than 2 steps. How is he doing this? Vesk shouted. The old historian gave one last warning. You've angered something old. Something Earth built not with ships or armies, but with pain, with loss, with silence. Vesk snarled and waved his hand. End him now. 10 elite guards jumped into the arena. Their armor was thick, their weapons strong. They circled Raven. The crowd held its breath. One guard rushed forward, then another, then all at once. Suddenly, darkness. All lights cut out. The arena was pitch black for exactly 5 seconds. When the lights came back, the crowd gasped. All 10 guards were on the ground, unmoving. Not one shot had been fired. No one saw how it happened. Raven stood at the center, still, not breathing hard, not sweating, just waiting. In the royal platform, Vesk clenched his fists. Impossible. The human finally looked around the arena. His voice was quiet, but it reached every ear. You made the galaxy laugh at us. You thought we were finished, broken, forgotten. He pointed to the stars above. But we've been watching, listening, waiting. Suddenly, a deep hum filled the air. A new signal. Above the arena, the clouds parted. Something massive appeared in the sky. A shadow, a ship. It wasn't listed on any known database. It was old, black, silent. Vesk's advisor shouted, "Unknown vessel above us. It's not sending any ID." The human smiled. That's ours. The ship hovered without sound. Then it sent a single message through every screen across the planet. System locked. External comms disabled. Phase 1 complete. Panic spread through the crowd. The gates of the arena locked. No one could leave. A message repeated again and again. Raven protocol activated. Vesk turned pale. You don't understand what you've done, the human said. I've made an example. Vesk shouted. You're just a trick. The human looked up, his voice steady. No, he said. I'm a reminder. The arena gates slammed shut with a deep metallic sound. The crowd began to panic. People screamed. Some tried to push their way out, but the exits were sealed tight. No one could escape. Above them, the black ship floated silently. It didn't shoot. It didn't speak. It only watched. The screen across the arena flashed again. Raven Protocol. Phase 2 beginning. Warlord Vesk stood frozen. His guards, trained killers, looked at each other with fear. None of them wanted to move. None of them wanted to face the human in the sand. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He was something else. Raven stood still, eyes closed for a moment. The wind picked up around him. Sand swirled at his feet like a storm was rising from the ground. Then he moved. Not fast. Not wild. Just calm. He walked toward the nearest wall of the arena. Everyone watched. Some whispered. Others prayed. The wall was 10 meters high, made of solid metal. No one ever escaped it. Raven placed his hand on it. A low vibration started. The wall cracked. From just his touch, the wall cracked. Not a blast. Not a bomb. His hand. The crack grew wider and wider until the wall split open like it was cut by an invisible blade. Behind it was a hallway, dark and quiet. A young alien soldier shouted. He broke the lock. He's escaping. No, one of the old guards whispered. He's not escaping. He's letting someone in. Then it began. From the hallway, shadows moved. Silent figures stepped out. They were human, like Raven, but different. They wore black armor, marked only with a single symbol on the chest, a white bird with wings wide. More ravens, 12 of them. Each one walked calmly into the arena, surrounding Raven. No words, no orders. They didn't need to speak. The original Raven opened his eyes. Begin sweep. The others spread out like smoke. One jumped up to the royal platform in a single leap. Vesk's guards raised their guns. Too late. The Raven didn't stop. 2 guards went down in seconds. The others dropped their weapons and backed away. Vesk shouted, "Stop. We can make a deal." The Raven standing before him tilted his head. "You already did. A long time ago. And then you broke it." From behind Vesk, his top advisor tried to flee, but was pulled back by invisible hands. He screamed. Then silence. Back in the arena, the crowd was pushed into stillness by fear. No one dared move. The black ship above still hadn't fired a single shot. It didn't need to. The Ravens were the weapon. One of the alien commanders whispered into his hidden mic, "Call for backup. Emergency response. Now." No answer. "Repeat, this is Commander Truvik. We are under." A Raven appeared behind him and calmly took the mic. "No more messages," he said, crushing it with one hand. All over the city, systems began to shut down. Power grids, defense turrets, air control. Every signal was blocked. The ship in orbit activated a silent pulse. A wave of blue energy spread out over the planet like a ripple in water. Everywhere it touched, technology stopped working. Weapons froze. Screens blinked out. The arena's lights went dark. Only the center, where Raven stood, remained lit. He looked up at the scared leaders, the laughing aliens who had once mocked Earth, who had thrown humans in chains. "No more chains," he said quietly. The oldest historian fell to his knees. "I told them," he whispered. "I told them never to say that word." Raven walked slowly toward the royal platform. Every step echoed. Warlord Vesk tried to run. He made it 3 steps. Then he dropped. A Raven stood behind him, silent, staring at his body. The original Raven stepped onto the platform and looked out at the crowd. "You thought we were weak," he said. "You thought you ended us. You erased the truth, burned the stories. But Earth remembers." He turned to the screen behind him. "Play the footage." The screen flickered. Then, old war footage began to play. Not from now. From decades ago. Forgotten battles. Human fleets tearing through alien armadas. Earth soldiers standing over broken alien flags. cities that were wiped out and then rebuilt stronger, truths that were erased from alien records. The crowd gasped. It wasn't just a ghost story. It was history, and it was back. The city of Jaltor was silent. No ships flew, no power flowed. The sky was filled with the black shape of the human ship, still watching like a judge from above. In the arena, the people stayed frozen. Even the rich elites, who once laughed the loudest, sat with wide eyes and shaking hands. The footage was still playing. Every screen showed the hidden truth, Earth's forgotten strength, the real war that had been buried, the fire that once swept across galaxies. Raven stood at the center of the royal platform. He pointed toward the horizon. "It's not over," he said. "Jaltor was built on top of something. You buried it. Now we dig it up." Vesk's advisors tried to stop him, but they were already surrounded. The 12 ravens stood like shadows, watching every move, ready to strike. One of them, a female raven named Nyx, stepped forward. "The vault is located beneath the old core, 200 meters underground." An alien tech officer whispered, "That's impossible. The old core is sealed. It's been dead for 100 years." "No," Nyx replied. "You just don't have the key." She raised her hand and pressed a small device against the metal floor. It clicked. The ground trembled. A hidden platform began to rise slowly, right in the middle of the arena. Dust spilled from the cracks as ancient machinery came alive. Glowing lights, human lights, lit the sides. Everyone watched as the platform revealed a black tunnel beneath it. The air that came out was cold, heavy, like it hadn't been touched in ages. Raven turned to the crowd. "This is what they feared. This is what they laughed at, to forget their fear. But you can't laugh at what lies underground." He stepped into the tunnel. The other ravens followed him down into the dark. The tunnel was silent except for the soft sound of boots hitting metal. Lights lit up one by one as they passed. Walls were covered in symbols, old Earth military codes, warning signs, strange tech diagrams. Some looked too advanced even for modern systems. Nyx looked at one of the walls and said quietly, "This place is older than the last war. This isn't just a vault." Another raven, Jax, ran a scan. "The material here doesn't match any known metal. This is Earth Black Composite, top secret, pre-evac technology. Not even the core worlds have it now." Deeper and deeper they went. At the end of the tunnel was a massive door. It stood 10 meters tall, smooth, dark, with no handle, no panel. Just one thing in the center, a single handprint. Raven stepped forward. He placed his palm against it. The door lit up blue. It spoke in English, in a calm human voice. "Welcome back, Raven 01. Vault 9 now opening." The door split open with a hiss. Inside was darkness, and then rows of strange machines, floating weapons, pods filled with stasis mist, and in the middle, a large black container, sealed with 20 red locks. Jax whistled. "This is it. They actually kept it here." Nyx nodded. The last protocol. The thing even Earth was afraid of. Raven stepped forward and looked at the container. He didn't speak. He just stared. Then finally, he said one word. Phase 3. Back above the surface, the crowd in the arena saw a new message flash on every screen. Voyul 9 OPENED. An alien general in the crowd turned pale. "No, that's not possible. Vault 9 is a myth." Another advisor whispered, "If Vault 9 is real, then everything they told us was a lie." In the sky, the black ship began to shift. Its outer layer unfolded like petals, revealing strange weapons unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, but they didn't fire. They just waited. Back underground, the red locks on the container began to blink. One by one, they turned green. Jax frowned. "Are we really doing this?" Raven didn't answer. He looked at the last lock. Nyx said softly, "Once it opens, there's no going back." Raven placed his hand on the final lock. It turned green. With a hiss, the container opened. Inside was not a weapon, not in the usual sense. It was a being, a human, but not just any human. His body was wrapped in advanced armor, smooth and dark, like the ship above. His eyes were closed. He floated in stasis. Nyx whispered, "Project Revenant, the first of us." Raven looked at the others. He was the reason we were made. The galaxy feared him once. Then they tried to hide him. Jax stared. They failed. Raven nodded. "Now," he said, "they'll remember." The stasis chamber hummed. Slowly, the figure inside the black container began to move. The lights in the underground vault flickered as the last of the red locks dissolved into dust. Raven watched as the figure's eyes opened, cold, empty, like the deepest void in space. The Revenant, the first of their kind, slowly rose from his stasis pod. He was taller than any human. His skin was pale, almost ghostly. His armor covered him entirely, sleek and dark, with sharp lines that shimmered in the low light. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there, unmoving, his eyes scanning the room. Raven took a step forward, his voice steady. "Welcome back." The Revenant tilted his head, as if considering Raven's words. Then, in a voice that echoed, low and chilling, he spoke. "I am the end." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. No one moved. The air itself seemed to freeze. Raven stepped back, letting the Revenant take center stage. "They feared you. They locked you away because of what you could do." The Revenant didn't respond. Instead, he turned toward the vault door. The metal doors that once sealed him in were now wide open. "I know what you are," Raven continued, his voice calm but firm. "You're the first of many. The human warriors they try to erase." The Revenant's eyes glowed. "Just for a moment. I was never meant to wake," he said softly. "But now that I have, they will all pay." His voice was like the wind before a storm, soft, but carrying the promise of destruction. Raven motioned to the ravens behind him. "The ship is ready. We leave now." Without a word, the Revenant moved forward. His steps were slow, deliberate, like the ticking of a clock counting down to something inevitable. As they made their way back through the tunnels, the atmosphere shifted. The walls, once cold and unfeeling, now seemed to pulse with energy. Something had changed. The very air around them seemed to vibrate with power. The ravens, once silent and watchful, now seemed eager, their movements quickening as they followed the Revenant. Above them, in the city, chaos had already begun. The alien leaders in the arena were frantic. No one could explain what was happening. Their communications were blocked. The power was gone. All that remained was the overwhelming presence of the human ship above them. A voice crackled through the silence. It was a leader from the outer coalition, desperate, shouting into the radio. "We have no connection. All systems are down. The human ship, it's overriding everything. We can't stop it." Warlord Vesk, shaking with fear, stood at the front of the command center. He watched the view screens, his face pale. He knew what was coming, and it terrified him. "We can still fight back," he gritted out. "We have weapons. Our fleets. We—" A single voice interrupted him. "Your fleets are already gone." Vesk whipped around. The Revenant stood in the doorway, his form silhouetted by the dim light of the room. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, piercing through the darkness. "How?" Vesk stammered. The Revenant's voice was soft but sharp. "Your weapons are nothing. Your fleets are nothing. We are Earth." The Warlord's soldiers raised their guns, but their hands shook. The Revenant didn't move. He just stood there, staring at them with an icy calmness. We can negotiate," Vesk pleaded. "We can surrender." The Revenant took one step forward. That was all. The room seemed to grow colder. The soldiers' weapons dropped to the floor, as if they had no weight. The tension in the air was unbearable. The walls shook with the low hum of power. Raw, unstoppable, earthborn. The Revenant raised his hand, and the lights in the room flickered once more. "I am the end," he repeated, his voice like thunder. "The beginning of something new." With a single motion, he snapped his fingers. The walls of the command center cracked, a deep sound that reverberated through the building. The lights went out. And then, silence. Above the city, the human ship began to descend. Its massive form blocked out the stars, casting a shadow over everything below. No one could see what was inside. No one knew what weapons it carried. But they all felt it. The cold, unshakable feeling that Earth had returned. That the story was not over. That it had only just begun. As the Revenant and the Ravens boarded their ship, the doors closed silently behind them. Raven stood by the controls, his face calm. The ship hummed to life, its power fully restored. They were leaving the arena, leaving Zaltor. But they weren't leaving the galaxy behind. Not by a long shot. The Revenant stood beside him, staring out at the stars, his cold eyes fixed on something far, far away. "This is just the beginning," Raven said quietly, his voice carrying a weight no one could ignore. "And soon, the galaxy will remember." The stars outside the human ship twinkled like frozen flames. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but calm. Raven stood at the center of the control room, his eyes focused on the galaxy map displayed in front of him. The Revenant stood beside him, silent as always, his cold gaze fixed on the endless void. The other Ravens moved quietly around the ship, preparing for what came next. Above them, the hum of the engines was a constant reminder that they were no longer on Zaltor. They were on their way home. But Raven knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. He turned to the Revenant. "We're ready." The Revenant nodded once, his eyes still watching the stars outside. The galaxy has forgotten what Earth is capable of, but they will remember. Raven's voice grew colder, more determined. "We'll remind them, one world at a time." On Zaltor, the chaos had only just begun. The elite leaders and generals who once mocked Earth's strength now scrambled to make sense of the disaster they'd unleashed. The power was still down. Their fleets had disappeared. They were helpless. But none of them were as afraid as Warlord Vesk. He stood at the highest point of his palace, staring at the black ship as it disappeared into the stars. His hands trembled as he gripped the railing. The air was thick with fear. The human ship had taken out his entire command, destroyed his most powerful weapons, and crippled his fleets. He was alone. "This isn't over," he muttered to himself. "We will rebuild. We will retaliate." But deep down, Vesk knew the truth. The galaxy had underestimated Earth, and now it would pay the price. Back aboard the human ship, the crew prepared for the next phase. Raven and the Revenant were on a path to a world that was far from peaceful. Raven stood at the ship's controls, his eyes locked on the stars ahead. Zaltor was just the first. "They'll be watching us, but they won't stop us." Nyx, one of the Ravens, approached him. "We've got reports from the other ships. The Outer Coalition is mobilizing their forces. They're afraid of what we might do next." Raven smiled darkly. "Let them be afraid. They don't know what fear is yet." The Revenant spoke, his voice low and menacing. "Let them come. We'll burn them all." Raven didn't flinch. "This isn't about burning. This is about making them understand. The galaxy's rules are changing. Earth's fire will burn through everything they've built." He turned to the crew. "Prepare the ship. We'll be at our destination soon. No one can stop us." Back in the heart of the galaxy, the leaders of the Outer Coalition gathered. Vesk was among them, his face twisted with rage and fear. "We must act," he hissed. "The humans are coming. They've already destroyed Zaltor. They've awakened something worse than any weapon we've ever seen. We cannot let them continue." Another leader spoke up, his voice quivering. They've already broken through our defenses. We can't risk fighting them directly. They've got something from Earth we don't understand. Vesk slammed his fist onto the table. Then we find out. We send everything we've got. The leaders exchanged worried glances, but none of them disagreed. They were scared, but their fear only fueled their anger. The humans want to remind us of their power, Vesk sneered. Then let them. We'll remind them of our own. The human ship hurtled through space, heading toward the next world on their list. The crew was ready, but Raven couldn't help but think of something deeper. What would happen if they awakened every weapon Earth had hidden? What would happen if they unleashed the true power of the human race? His mind raced with possibilities, but one thing was clear. Earth's fire was spreading, and nothing would stop it. He turned to the Revenant, whose cold eyes never wavered. "Is it ready?" Raven asked. The Revenant's lips barely moved as he answered. "It will be when we arrive." Raven nodded. "Good. We'll show them what happens when they laugh at humanity. Let's burn them." As the ship approached the next world, the tension on board was palpable. The crew was ready for what was to come, but Raven knew they couldn't waste time. Every second counted. The galaxy was already waking up to the truth. They had forgotten the power of Earth, but soon the galaxy would remember. And when they did, they would never laugh again. The ship's engines hummed louder as it began to enter the atmosphere of the next world. It was time. The next chapter in their mission had begun. Raven's eyes narrowed. Prepare to strike. The Revenant stepped forward, his face as cold as ever. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "The galaxy will burn, and only Earth will remain." Raven grinned. "And we'll be the ones to light the flame." The human ship broke through the atmosphere with terrifying speed, its sleek, black form cutting through the skies of the next world. Below, the planet's defenses were already scrambling, but they were too late. The ship was already here, and this time, nothing would stand in its way. Raven stood at the helm, his fingers gliding over the controls with practiced ease. Beside him, the Revenant was still silent, his cold gaze fixed on the planet below. There was no fear in his eyes, just a quiet, unyielding certainty. They had come to deliver a message, and this time, the galaxy would listen. "The moment we land, we strike," Raven said, his voice calm, but the weight of his words carried through the room. The crew moved swiftly, preparing for the ground assault. They had no illusions about what was waiting for them. This planet was protected by the same forces that had fallen on Zaltor, the same forces that had mocked Earth's strength. But they had underestimated one thing: the power of the humans who had learned to survive against all odds. "We're not here to negotiate," Raven continued. "We're here to remind them that Earth is not a place to be ignored. Let them see what happens when they forget." On the surface of the planet, chaos had already begun. The rulers of this world were in a panic. Their radar systems had detected the incoming ship, and their soldiers scrambled to form a defense. But they were not ready. They had never faced anything like this before. Warlord Vesk had warned them. He had told them the humans were coming, but they hadn't listened. And now, as the massive human ship descended from the sky, it was clear that the galaxy's rules were about to change forever. "Sound the alarms," a leader shouted, his voice quivering with fear. "Get everyone to the front lines. We cannot let them land." But it was already too late. As the ship touched down, the ground trembled. The soldiers outside looked up, their eyes widening in disbelief. The ship was immense, far larger than any weapon they had ever seen. And it was not alone. The Ravens, warriors from Earth, spilled from the ship's doors. They moved quickly, silently, like shadows on the battlefield. The soldiers on the ground raised their weapons, but their hands shook. This was not a battle they were prepared for. Not even close. Raven stepped down onto the planet's surface, his boots making a quiet sound on the cracked earth. He scanned the area, eyes narrowing. The enemy forces were coming, but they were disorganized. They had no plan. They didn't even know what they were up against. "We'll show them the true meaning of Earth's wrath," Raven said to the Revenant, who stood beside him, an implacable force in the chaos. The Revenant's lips curled slightly, though no emotion was visible on his face. "Let them try to stop us." The battle erupted quickly. Alien soldiers fired their weapons, but nothing could pierce the Raven's armor. They moved through the enemy ranks with terrifying precision, cutting down anything in their path. Raven was at the center of it all. His eyes locked on the enemy leaders trying to escape. They were in the distance now, moving toward a fortified bunker. But Raven didn't hesitate. He gave the order, and the Ravens followed. The Revenant moved alongside them, his steps echoing like thunder on the battlefield. His movements were slow, deliberate, but each step carried the weight of an unstoppable force. Raven had one goal in mind: to break the enemy's will to fight, to make them understand what it meant to face Earth's wrath. And with each strike, each shot, the galaxy's power was being rewritten. The enemy was retreating, but Raven knew they wouldn't stop. They were scared, but not broken. They had a long way to go before they learned what Earth was capable of, and Raven was determined to make sure they never forgot. Back in the command bunker, the alien leaders were watching the destruction unfold on their screens. Their world was crumbling before them. "How do we stop them?" one of them asked, his voice trembling. Another leader, quieter but no less fearful, spoke up. "We can't. It's too late. They're unstoppable." Warlord Vesk entered the room, his eyes wild. "You think this is the end? This is only the beginning. Earth has sent its message, but we're not finished yet." The leaders turned to him. "What do you suggest?" one of them asked. Vesk grinned darkly. "We regroup. We fight back. We'll show them that the galaxy isn't theirs to conquer." Back outside, the battle had reached its peak. The Ravens had taken control of the enemy's command center. The alien soldiers, now defeated and disarmed, were gathered in a line, their heads bowed in fear. Raven stepped forward, his eyes scanning the defeated enemies. "You've learned the hard way what happens when you underestimate Earth. But this is only one world. We're not finished yet." He turned to the Revenant, who was watching silently, his eyes as cold as ever. "Prepare to leave. There are more worlds to remind." The Revenant gave a single, slow nod. "The galaxy will burn. Earth's fire cannot be contained." As Raven turned to leave, he looked back at the crumbling battlefield. He knew what they had done was only a small part of the bigger plan. The galaxy had forgotten Earth, but soon it would remember. And when it did, there would be no stopping them. The human ship rose from the planet's surface, leaving behind a world in ruins. The Ravens aboard the ship were silent, their mission complete. But Raven knew this was only the beginning. There were more worlds to awaken, more enemies to face, and the fire of Earth would burn brighter than ever before. As the ship ascended into the darkness of space, Raven looked out at the stars. He was sure of one thing: the galaxy would never forget the wrath of Earth. The human ship cut through the endless darkness of space, heading toward its final destination. The crew was silent, focused on the task ahead. Raven stood at the helm, staring out at the stars, his mind locked on what was coming next. He could feel the weight of everything that had happened. The galaxy had learned Earth's power, but there was still one final message to deliver. "This is it," Raven said quietly, almost to himself. "The last stand." The Revenant stood beside him, as silent as ever. His cold eyes flicked toward Raven, his expression unreadable. But Raven knew the Revenant understood the importance of what was to come. The galaxy had been mourned. Zhaltor had fallen. This world had been crushed beneath their feet. And yet the galaxy's leaders were still defiant, still stubbornly holding on to their idea that they could stop Earth's rise. But this time, there would be no retreat. The ship's scanners pinged with a warning. A fleet of ships was ahead, and it was big, larger than any fleet the humans had faced before. Raven's hand gripped the console, his expression hardening. "The Outer Coalition," he muttered. "They've come for the final battle." "Let them come," the Revenant said, his voice a low growl. "They have no idea what they're about to face." Raven turned, looking over the crew. "Everyone, prepare for battle. This is it. The galaxy is about to learn that nothing can stop us." On the other side of space, the Outer Coalition had gathered everything they had left. The leaders were desperate. Their fleets, their defenses, their armies, they all depended on this final stand. They had underestimated Earth. Now, it was their turn to face the consequences. Warlord Vesk stood at the center of the Coalition's command, staring at the holographic display. The human ship was coming. He could feel the anger and fear rising within him. "They've already destroyed our fleets. They've broken our will. But this will end here," Vesk declared, his voice thick with rage. "We will not let one human ship rewrite the galaxy's fate." He turned to the generals around him. "Prepare everything. This is our last chance to show Earth that we are not afraid." Back aboard the human ship, the tension was palpable. The crew moved quickly, checking weapons, running systems diagnostics, preparing for the battle that was coming. Raven could feel the anticipation in the air. There was no turning back now. The time for warnings was over. "We can do this," Nyx, one of the Ravens, said with a fierce grin. "We've taken on fleets before. This is just another challenge." Raven nodded. "We won't stop until the message is clear. The galaxy will know what Earth is capable of, and we'll make sure they never forget." The fleets of the Outer Coalition appeared on the scanners, massive ships with weapons powerful enough to obliterate entire planets. But Raven didn't flinch. He didn't even look worried. He knew what they were up against, and he knew their ship could handle it. "Lock onto their fleet," Raven ordered. "Prepare to engage." The crew followed his command without hesitation, the ship's weapons powered up, ready to unleash destruction. It was a quiet moment, almost like the calm before the storm. But Raven could feel the weight of everything that had led to this moment. The destruction of Jaltor, the defeat of the alien fleets, all of it had brought them here. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. The Outer Coalition's fleet opened fire first, their massive guns lighting up the stars. Lasers and plasma projectiles rained down on the human ship, but Raven's crew was ready. The ship dodged with impossible speed, weaving through the enemy fire like a predator stalking its prey. The human ship fired back, its weapons glowing with bright, deadly energy. The first few shots struck the closest enemy ships, causing massive explosions that lit up the dark void of space. The fleet retaliated with more firepower, but it was no use. The human ship was faster, smarter, and deadlier than anything they had ever faced. The Ravens were relentless, moving through the chaos with precision. Their weapons were unmatched, cutting through enemy ships with deadly accuracy. The Outer Coalition's fleet was disintegrating in front of them, their best ships falling apart with each passing second. Raven stood at the helm, his hand steady on the controls. His mind was calm, focused on the destruction unfolding around him. He could feel the power of Earth in every strike, every shot. They had shown the galaxy what humanity could do, and now they were finishing what they had started. "We're not done yet," Raven said quietly. "Let's make sure they remember." Warlord Vesk watched as his fleet was torn apart. His ships were disintegrating, their forces scattered, their morale broken. It was the end. They had failed. "They're too strong," one of his generals said, fear creeping into his voice. "We can't stop them." Vesk clenched his fists. "This isn't over. We'll rebuild. We'll fight again." But deep down he knew. The galaxy had changed. Earth had changed it. And there was no going back. Raven's ship moved through the battlefield, leaving a trail of destruction behind. The Outer Coalition's fleet was in tatters, its leaders defeated. The galaxy had learned one final, undeniable truth. Earth's wrath was unstoppable. As the last of the enemy ships crumbled into dust, Raven allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. This was the final battle, the final message. The galaxy would remember Earth forever. He turned to the Revenant, who had been watching in silence, his cold eyes never wavering. "It's done," Raven said. The Revenant nodded. "The galaxy will burn, and Earth will rise from the ashes." Raven smiled grimly. "It's not over. It's just the beginning." The human ship moved on, leaving the wreckage behind. The stars stretched out before them, endless and filled with possibilities. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and Earth had taken its rightful place at the center of the universe. But as Raven looked out into the vastness of space, he knew this was only the beginning of something even greater. Earth's fire would burn forever.